22 Incorporated. This is America.
Land of free, home of the brave, baby, let's go! Hello there, everyone. Today, I welcome you to the first episode of 22 Incorporated. I'm here with my dad, Sergeant First Class Jonathan Albert Berdor. You guys may know me as BB Christian, and from this point forward, 22 Incorporated will be the new C24. This is what C24 has become. I'm sure you guys may have seen the trailer from earlier. Dad, go ahead and...
So the biggest thing that we're planning on doing is we wanted to bring to kind of C24 into becoming a household
thing.
Yeah, a household thing, but also, we wanted to talk about the current events. We wanted to talk about some things that bother people. 22 Inc. We wanted to show some importance about the 22 veterans that die each day from veteran suicide. We wanted to talk about PTSD. We wanted to talk about schizo-effective disorder, some of the problems that we face each day, and go into personal details, just different things, and talk about kind of what's going on, and open the floor to questions, and just talk about anything that's going on in our lives, anything that's going on in y'all's lives. We'll answer questions. And I'm pretty excited about this. I'm pretty excited about what's going to happen and what could happen, and kind of see where this goes from here.
Now, just for context, this was all his idea. This was all his idea, so... but actually, I actually was on... But obviously, you guys can imagine, I was completely on board with it. So, anywho, what do you want to start with exactly?
Well... Tell me the idea behind C24. What started with C24?
Okay, so the idea behind C24 is what C24 was it was supposed to be me basically talking about current events. It was supposed to be a list of things. So we had current events here in the United States. Then I was going to go into sports and that kind of thing, and then just add a little humor and whatnot. Here or there, maybe a little political humor, and it was going to get a little political here or there, but I was always going to remain unbiased. That was something that is always on my mind. That unfortunately failed in the first episode of C24, so yeah, I got a little too biased, if you know what I mean. So yeah, it got really bad, so...
So then my biggest thing is then my idea about kind of it becoming semicolon 22 Incorporated was for it to become more than just talking about current events, more than it becoming talking about what's going on in the world, more than it talking about political views. I wanted to kind of, because I am a veteran myself, I did 17 years in service, and I wanted to talk about some of the disabilities that we face, some of the important things that are happening to our veterans out there. I wanted to talk about some of the problems or some of the issues that you've gone through in your life with the schizo-effective disorder,
the autism
and the manic episodes, and growing up with that, and then some of the things that I see on a daily basis being a medical nursing assistant, and then some of the, I just wanted to really hone in on it and kind of talk about the different things and having some good talk and dialogue and kind of, have some fun with it and kind of, answer everybody's questions, see what was important to them and what they wanted to talk about. And so, but it was mainly those kind of ideas and that kind of open dialogue about it. And so I wanted it to become more. Um, and so that's kind of where it became. So at the beginning of coming to this website, we have two sigils at the top of the website, and right next to the 22 ink. Can you explain the sigils and where they kind of came from?
Okay, so obviously yours came from your history throughout the. It was actually mainly that you requested a sigil that kind of represented you, so I wanted to kind of see where I could go with that. So the first sigil that I had the bright idea of using his rank. I know, Dad. I know you were not a fan of that whatsoever. Yeah, so I was like, okay, I'll make you. I was like, so what I said was like, okay, let me make you a sigil and let me see what I can do. And so I was coming up with these crazy ideas, and I was thinking of the of Kratos' God of War symbol, the Omega symbol that you see, the Greek Omega symbol. So that was the first iteration, and then he was like, why don't you try just a rifle and a stethoscope? So I was like, okay, let's try that out. So I went through a couple iterations, and eventually I came to one that I actually did like, which was the stethoscope and the rifle with the barrel down. Um, with the barrel down, because you know how bullets exit the barrel and whatnot. So you know how bullets exit the barrel. I think that was just more of me saying like, I guess how that kind of it represents kind of like a peaceful. I think it represents the peaceful transition of what was, but basically, I guess it represents like a ceasefire. It could represent people putting their weapons down and.
So to me, I kind of thought about my sigil or something that represented me as moving forward with my military career. I did 17 years and I did medically retire. I had broken my back in uh, 5 different places, and I had knee issues and neck issues, and I had shattered my hand while I was in, and I suffered from PTSD and mental health issues. And the biggest thing that I wanted to do is something that represented me. Um, I didn't want to. I wanted something that moved forward and not necessarily talked about rank and it's kind of like the tattoo for the military guys. So, nobody's a bigger buzzkill than the guy that's walking around with his rank on tattooed on his sleeve or something like that. It's just it's to me moving forward is kind of the rifle for me. That's who I am, and that's what it symbolizes, being face down. And then the stethoscope is where I'm currently at, working at a mental health facility, and what my current job is, and what I am currently working towards, and trying to help people with their current disabilities, and trying to make them more competent in society nowadays. Now your sigil, you want to explain yours?
Okay, so mine, so it started back in around early 2023, 2024, and I was thinking of a sigil, and I was originally thinking about updating the crowned insignia, which is the old sigil that I had prior to this year, but this year, I wanted a symbol that would represent the new era of BB Christian. because over the past couple of years, I have been going through a lot, and I've had to cancel a lot of projects, and I've had to make a lot of changes here or there, and it's been a massive transition period that I've had to go through, and so over that transitional period, I've began to realize, oh shoot, I have not been doing the things of God. So I was like, and the symbol that I was using was so flashy and extravagant. It was like big starlight and spotlight and whatnot. So I wanted, and not to mention that the symbol was not created using original assets, and I have always prided myself on authenticity and originality. So when I realized that the crowned insignia was mainly using a lot of non-original assets, mainly stickers and that kind of thing, things that people have already created, I was like, why don't I create a brand new sigil using only original assets? So I used a kind of like a circle to represent kind of like I would say probably like a halo or something like that. I don't know how you would interpret that, but like you could interpret that in many ways. But the cross inside the cross obviously represents my faith. And then the diamond within kind of represents the diamond within that cross represents the change that I'm willing to make, kind of, because you know how there's like that old saying, the diamond in the rough. Yeah, so that's kind of where I was thinking. And then obviously the waves that you see in the image obviously represent the new theme that I've decided to go for. I decided to go for the sand of the seas. I decided to take a reference from the story of Abraham, as God told him that his people will be like the sand of the sea and the number of the stars in the sky.
Okay.
So that was how I got that. So I was like, when I thought sands, I thought seas, and I was like, let's do beach kind of sea theme. So I was like, so I tried to incorporate that, and actually successfully so, thankfully. And so eventually came to the new era and whatnot, and it.
Well, your sigil looks good. I like where it went to, and I know that you were struggling there for a while. I know with originality. I know that because you started out so young as a content creator. We talked many times about originality because you were taking a lot of ideas from other places, and you were incorporating them with your original ideas, but you were putting other people's ideas with yours, and which would have led to, if anything ever kicked off, which would have led to copyright issues.
Or possibly a lawsuit.
Yeah, or a lawsuit. And so we had to really talk and anything like that. And you really stretched out and got into creating your own stuff. And so that became better. So now I wanted to kind of talk about some current events with you, if you got some time or whatever. What do you think about talking about some current events?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, I'm down for it.
All right, so let's see. Let's talk about basketball first.
Ooh, yeah. So, I don't watch NBA that much. I'm gonna be honest. I don't watch NBA that much. So I'm not exactly an NBA nut. I'm mainly football. I'm mainly NFL, that kind of guy. But I mean, I'm down to talk about anything. So
there's two things I want to hit on. One, the NBA Finals the NBA Finals are coming up, but right now the playoffs are going on and they are heating up. And I'm gonna tell you right now, our family is originally from Oklahoma, so.
True.
And The Oklahoma City Thunder are doing extremely well, and they are supposed to. They got high bids right now for supposed to take the West and maybe make it to the finals this year. So we're going for the Thunder. We're going to be watching that and see. They're taking on the Denver Nuggets going on Monday. Game one is Monday. So let's go Thunder and see where that goes. Let's see. Then Elon Musk is up to no good again.
Yeah. Oh, man. Oh, brother. So we just found this out last night, but as we were coming up with ideas for the first episode, but he's intending to transform a town into a literal starbase, and he's calling it, and he's into its kind of like SpaceX style city, and he's trying to turn it into a new city called Starbase, Texas. Now,
So it looks like he's taking 500 people that are going to basically live and create and work at this starbase in this city, and they're going to be living up and around this area, and he's going to own the rights to this city, but it's going to have its own governing unit. It's going to be called, let's see, Starbase, Texas. And it's, so he has bought the rights to it, from what I understand, and it's soon to become law, is what I understand. So, is anybody interested in knowing more about that, or interested in starting a conversation, what you guys might think? Go ahead and comment below and let us know what you guys think about that. Then, let's talk about the Trump administration and what they're planning on doing with November 11th, Veterans Day. That affects us. They're planning on renaming Veterans Day, or there were plans on, he was planning on renaming Veterans Day to
Victory Day.
Victory Day for World War One. Now, I'm kind of mixed about that. Now, I'm not going to go into detail. You can kind of, if you watch long enough, and you'll see which side of the fence I'm on about politics by things that I say here and there. But I don't know how I feel about taking away Veterans Day. I think it's important to talk about World War One and the Victory Day. I think that is very important, and I think it should be celebrated, especially considering there are so many World War One vets still out there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's one of those things that I would take away Veterans Day, because we're taking away their day to celebrate all the veterans and the ones that are currently serving. I'm a vet of the Afghanistan-Iraq war, and I went to both.
And not to mention the war on terrorism.
Yeah, and the war on terrorism, and I'm a strong believer of everybody having their day. So I don't know. What do you think, Blaze?
So I'm gonna have to go with you on this one. I'm gonna be honest. I see what Trump is doing, but I just do not agree with having Veterans Day as Victory Day for World War One. Now, what I would suggest is maybe having a dedicated day, maybe sometime after Veterans Day, and sometime before Thanksgiving, that we do have a Victory Day for World War One. I know he's planning May 8th as Victory Day for World War II. However, I think we could have both World War One and World War II on May 8th, and And actually, it comes like literally 4 days after May the 4th. Oh, and happy May the 4th to you guys. So it is,
Yeah, May the 4th be with you.
of course.
And so, um, let's talk about the Pope passing away.
Ooh.
Okay, so they are trying to find a replacement. They're going through all the cardinals right now, and they are trying to find a replacement for the Pope. And they've narrowed it down. But there is another guy who has surfaced and says that he is the Messiah. And you want to tell us about that, Blaze?
Yeah, so there is a little video evidence. He has called himself the Messiah. He has also called himself, basically, I would say like the unifier of the religions and whatnot. The Jewish, the Jews, the Christians, and the freaking the Islam. He's got this major sect of, and it's coming out of Islam, which is strange. And a lot of people are calling him the Antichrist. A lot of people are calling him the Antichrist. Now, I do not think he is the Antichrist per se, but I think he is a Antichrist because I know the Bible had mentioned something about, like, there's going to be a lot of Antichrists, a lot of false prophets. They're going to say, like, he's there, he's the...
I wouldn't call him the Antichrist. That's going a little bit far, but maybe a false prophet. We'll go there.
Yeah, I would say he's a false prophet. He has called himself a prophet. So he has actually called himself a prophet. He has said he is the successor to Jesus.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, yeah. I'm dead serious. I promise you, I'm not kidding. This has actually happened. And he actually did mention something about... And that's the thing. He actually mentioned this, and this is something that kind of got me a little on the fritz. It's like, what are you talking about? And that's what it got me thinking. Is like, what are you talking about? Because this is what he mentioned about the Pope. He mentioned that the Pope passed away from the breath of his cult following having a prayer and doing this chant.
Okay, so what you're telling me is supposedly his cult, which said a prayer and they breathed the passing of the Pope into fruition.
Yeah.
And not that the Pope was old or ill.
Yeah, so I don't think they really took that into consideration. Yeah, personally, I'm not gonna take that at face value, but just I figured that's something I wanted to go on. I know me and you would probably agree. We're both gonna call BS on that one.
I don't. This guy is a nutcase to me. He might need to be in the places that I actually help.
Yeah, correct.
But
absolutely.
I mean, to all their own, they can believe who they are, and I don't.
Yeah, my thoughts exactly. I think to each his own.
But
so.
It's one of those things that you never know, I guess. Because who believed in Jesus when it all started either, or God. But that's crazy to me. That's it's one of those things that's not how it's written. That's not to say you're a successor to Jesus. That's crazy to me.
Yeah, I think that's a load of crazy talk. The Bible mentioned nothing about that, so I think that's something we both can agree on. So what's next?
I wanted to get into talking about something that happened recently to us and to a family that we know well, and their family and their their dad, a matter of fact. And then I wanted to kind of get into the whole point of this the podcast. But before I go any further, I'd be remiss to say uh, I'm so sorry to the Kirkland family. For those of you that don't know, a man by the name of Brock Kirkland was driving home from work in Houston, Texas, and he, we have reason to believe that he was either hit or there was foul play um, on his motorcycle. Um, and he was tipped over, and they basically, he was found deceased at the scene. His family is truly struggling right now because not only was he the dad of the family and he will be missed, but he was also the main breadwinner to the family. And so he, it kind of left the family struggling. And so they are looking for a little bit of help with their current situation. I already donated to a good cause and tried to help them out as much as I could. I know a lot of people have been donating to them, and anybody that's watching or gonna watch this, if
We
you're if you're looking for something to help with, or you want to help a family, this would be a good family to help.
So I will leave the link to the GoFundMe in the description down below. We could use all the help we got, and of course to Brock Kirkland. You probably are not watching this, but rest in peace, brother, and to the Kirkland family, I truly am sorry for your loss.
Yeah. So, and to his daughter, who is a close friend of mine, my daughter's, I hope you find peace, and I hope that somewhere in there that you know that you're loved, and that if you need anything, we're here for you. So, let's talk about mental illness.
Ooh, that's good to go.
Yeah, let's talk about mental illness and the reason why we're doing this podcast. Mm-hmm. So, Blaze, I know mental illness in your life has been a big piece of your life. I know mental illness has been a piece of my life. So, first, I know at the beginning of this video I talked about having PTSD. I talked about you having schizo-effective disorder.
I'd also mention something about my autism.
Yeah, you do have autism. So let's take a dive, tell a little bit about our stories, and kind of talk about what we've been through, and see if our stories would help anyone, kind of what they're going through as adults, and see if it helps them get through any hard times where they think that mental health is something that you can't push through. And if it is, if you're struggling with it, just know that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, because we're here for you guys. You can leave comments below. We'll get back to you. If you need resources, we'll find the resources for you guys. Or we're resources ourselves. You can always comment. We'll comment back everything. But I know with me, my struggle with mental health started when I was young. When I was really young, I was from a divorced family. And I took that personally. And I took it inward, and I was always looking for something. Um, I was always looking for a handout from people to respect me for some reason, looking for somebody to um, kind of be on my side. And it went the opposite way when I was in elementary school and some of junior high. I was the bullied kid. I was the made fun of kid. I was the last one to be picked anytime, I went through anything. And, had my hands broke when I was young by the school bully, and freaking I had to eventually I had to stand up for myself to the point of I had to fight the biggest kid in the school to kind of get him off my back. And even though I lost that fight, I got my ass kicked. Even though I had to, but it showed him that I wasn't just going to be pushed around anymore. I had to show that different side of me. And I had to change who I was. I had to change my personality. I had to change kind of what I was willing to put up with and what I wasn't willing to put up with. And I had to change who I was. And that's when I really started struggling with mental health. I realized very at a young age that being a nice kid with respecting other people and being nice, just nice to anyone, wasn't going to get me anywhere. It really, not having your guard up and not being on, not having a hardness to you, wasn't going to get me anywhere. It kind of showed weakness to other males, especially at the time. So that changed partially in junior high into high school, and I became a little bit more popular into high school. And I started to harden up. I started going to counseling, and I started listening to the different suggestions and things like that. I also started to change who I was, and whenever the opportunity came around for me to stand up for somebody or stand up for myself, I took that opportunity, and unbeknownst to maybe unbeknownst is the wrong word. Unbeknownst is a horrible word, actually, for this. But the fact is, my mother hated it. But the fact is, I used fighting as my outlet and to stand up for myself. And every time somebody would pick on me or freaking things like that in high school, pick on somebody I loved, I'd fight them. And I ended up suspended many a times, which just pissed off Grandma.
That is true.
And I built a reputation around that instead of a good reputation. So then when I left the military, or then when I left the high school, I went to Ohio, and I married your mother.
That's true.
And we were pitch broke, living in a efficiency apartment, and I was stealing grocery carts for food and living off of $800 every 2 weeks, and paying rent and paying electricity and paying water and paying for the bills and paying off of just different things. And I don't even know if I was making $800 every 2 weeks. I think I was making even less than that. That may have been $800 a month. I don't know. But the fact is, we were broke. Anyways, I walked into a recruiting center and I joined the military. And I thought it was the greatest thing coming because the paychecks, he showed me how much I was going to get paid. And that was the first thing that opened my eyes about it. I was like, money. And I learned very quickly that wasn't going to be enough. But that was the one reason why I got in the military, was so that I could support you guys. And long story short, I ended up with a divorce, 4 kids, remarried, and I ended up with 4 deployments to Iraq, Afghanistan, Korea, and I ended up with PTSD. I did not care for myself very well. And I ended up with a temper problem that I ended up unleashing and taking out on everybody that was around me for many, many years.
Unfortunately, I ended up having to bear the brunt of that.
I did, and I took it out on my kids. I took it out on my wife. A lot of anger issues, and I've apologized and tried to make amends for that as I've grown and been to counseling and things like that through the years, as I've grown. And but the fact is, I didn't even realize it. I didn't, like, as we were growing up in the military, you didn't even we didn't even know what PTSD was when we were first growing through the military. Like, nobody walked up to you and was like, "Hey, you got PTSD." It was like, this is like 8, 9, 10 years after I got in that somebody even came up to you and was like, "Do you know what PTSD is?" And I'm like, "What the hell is PTSD?" And, somebody finally looked at me after I went to go see the doctor and was like, "Do you know what you have? Because these are all the side effects. Anger issues, taking it out on kids, taking it out on family members, eating too much, not showering all the time, freaking blah, 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 blah." And I was like, holy shit, that's me, So, and it was bad. It was really bad there for a while.
Agreed.
I was really bad there for a while, and so I struggled for. I still struggle with it. A matter of fact, I still have flashbacks. I still have my moments of anger. I've learned to control certain aspects of it, but I am, in your opinion, would you say that I'm probably 100 times better than I was back then?
Yeah. And the only time you've mainly yelled is when you've had to. Is when you've mainly had to, because of course Lucas is either being a bit of a pain in the neck, or
Lucas is his brother, yeah. But um, I we didn't even know what conversation was when Blaze was growing up. From the first 8 or 9 years of his life, our conversation was yelling. So it was that bad. So yeah, it was rough there for a while, and so that's my struggle with PTSD, and kind of where I'm coming from on this. And then, Blaze, you have your own problems that were you were born with your own issues. Is that correct?
Yeah, that would be the case. We didn't find out until like 3 years old. I didn't find out until like I was 3 years old. And so the fact is, I have something called schizo-effective bipolar disorder, and it what it does is it causes me to hear voices in my head, kind of similar to Randy Orton, but in the literal sense. But yeah, in the literal sense. But and for the first few years of my life, it was bad, like really, 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 really bad, and it got so bad, so bad.
So tell us, and I don't want to interrupt you as you're telling this story, but you said it got really bad. Can you tell us a little bit about how it was when you were young?
Okay, well, so it started out pretty tame. Just talking to myself here or there, annoying the parents and whatnot. It wasn't until we moved to Lawton back in around like '09, 2010, that things really kicked off. I was running away from home and I was trying to go to this place called Bakugan Land, which,
Yeah, I remember.
yeah, it's not a real place. Don't try to look that up. Yeah, I was not right in the head at the time, and of course, I was also a fan of Power Rangers around that time, and so what I did is right around that time, to, I had, and this was the biggest moment of like, what have I done? This was the moment of why did I even do that? And that is actually and you guys are gonna absolutely hate me for this, but I grabbed a kitchen knife from I grabbed the kitchen knife from its sheath thing, the little block that we have, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And I tried to pull it on Mom. It was Jade that warned me of the situation, and well, I was forced to hand over the knife, and so you weren't home at the time, but Mom had called you, and so you had come home. You were obviously extremely mad. Like, because I looked to my left, and you were obviously extremely mad. And so we get into a bitter fight, and doesn't really pan out too well for me.
So what ended up happening during this was, Cassie. So, me and Blaze's mom, we divorced when Blaze was 3. And, then I married Cassie, like 4 months later. And yeah, I know it's quick. I know what everybody says, but we've been together now 19 years. So we've been together about 98% of Blaze's life. So he refers to Cassie as mom because right now he's lived with Cassie most of his life because he's lived with me. But so during this incident, he pulled a knife on Cassie, who was sleeping on the couch, and held it over her head and called her Zoltar, which was a villain on a TV show that he knew, and he had all intentions of hurting her. And I do believe Jade woke Cassie up by screaming, if I'm not mistaken. But, anyways, it's just I walked in secondhand to all this, but that kind of tells you kind of what's going on. But continue, please.
And so as I was saying, me and Dad got into a heated argument. I said some things, you said some things, and then obviously,
Cassie left.
yeah, yeah, but yeah,
Cassie left. She didn't know if she was gonna come back. She was scared for her life, and she walked out and said, "I need time." And she left the house and left me with Blaze and Jade, and she was scared. She had every right to be,
true.
and she had every right to react like that. But
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah, so obviously words were flown at each other, and then so I tried to step up to him, and so Dad basically put his military belt on the ground, and he said, "By all means, step up." And so I did just that, and like I said, it didn't pan out too well for me because I ended up getting hogtied, big time. I got hogtied.
Yeah.
Yeah, he hogtied me with the belt. So yeah, I was livid.
I told you I did things when he was younger that I'm not too proud of. And freaking, he was going through it, and he stepped up, and I literally hogtied him because he was going through his episodes, and I didn't know any other way other than he was attacking me, and he went for his sister, and I hogtied him. And so I didn't know what else to do other than protect his sisters. But like I said, I did things back then that I wasn't too proud of. But go ahead.
Yeah, and so I would say back in 2000 back in 010, that was when you took me to the Oklahoma City airport, and that's when I went to Laurel Ridge.
So we had when he went for his sister, and after Cassie left, and she had decided to come back. It was the same day she had come back. She asked for help, and she said we need to get him help. And he was still very, very manic, which was up and down, screaming, yelling, kicking things. He tried to kick out my windshield out of the car, and we took him on post to Fort Sill, and the general's nurse ended up seeing Blaze and was like, he is losing his mind, because at the time he was doing just that. He was getting no help and didn't know where to go, didn't know his left from his right. And he's not 3 at this point. He is this is 2010, so he was 3. No, he was not 3. 7, 8.
Yeah, 7, 8 years old.
And so she calls and asks for me to be pulled off of what was going to be my 5th deployment. And I get pulled completely off the 5th deployment. I get sent over to where they're at in the hospital, and the general does it himself. And I come into a screaming child who is kicking and screaming and trying to kick the nurse because she's got needles for him to kind of calm down, full of a sedative. And so they take him and they found a place in San Antonio called Laurel Ridge. And it's an inpatient facility that basically would take Blaze for up to a year. And they would take all the medication that he is on and they would strip it completely off of him. And then they would work with him to get therapy, go to school, put him back on his meds, and basically work with him on different coping mechanisms, things like that. Basically work with him to get him back into society as a normal child. All they needed from me was to see him every weekend, go to therapy, and for Cassie to go to therapy with me, and to make sure that I'm supporting with signatures and everything that needed to be done behind the scenes. So we have to take him up to Oklahoma City. We take him up to Oklahoma City. The facility manager meets us up there. And they take Blaze into custody. And they fly him down to San Antonio. We drive from Oklahoma City down to San Antonio. And tell me what you remember.
So, I remember there were a bunch of kids there. I remember there were definitely these units. I know the one I was in was San Gabriel. I think that was the name. And so we were all in this mainline, main unit. And we were all in this unit together. And each of us had our own little bedrooms and whatnot. And each of us had our own issues and here or there. And I met some kids there. They were very fun to play around with. But I was still pretty violent and whatnot, and still going through my episodes. And I actually, over the last couple of weeks, over the last year or so, around that time, I was trying to escape. I was trying to get out of there. I was trying to escape and make a run for it. I was going to, and actually there was one time I actually came close. I came close to doing so. I was pretty much near the bridge. I was at the front. I think I was like close to the front gate at that point. I was at the front. I was close to the front door at that point. I was getting ready to push the door open and whatnot, and I was about to have freedom. Something within me basically stopped me, and of course they caught me. I hesitated, and they caught me.
So he thinks he was close, but the facility had him. But he was put on meds, and they worked with him for a year and got him through the episodes, kind of like the facility in which I work with now with adults. They put them on their meds, they work with them, they send them to therapy, and basically they work with them until they start coming around, and then they release them to their family members. You see them once on the weekends for released passes and things like that, and I saw a complete change in Blaze. There was no more violence coming from him, and he just he was what we wanted from him at a younger age. And it was good. It was really good what they had done for him, and he was on medication for many, many years.
So yeah, fast forward to 8th grade, and I know, Dad, you've mentioned you had your own share of bullies and whatnot. I've had my share of bullies. Half of it was unfortunately provoked. I did unfortunately provoke a lot of people. However, I also had some pretty interesting moments. There was that other half that there were some moments where it was completely unprovoked, and it was just pure unprovoked violence. I was maybe on a computer or something, minding my own business, and there was this one time where a group of kids tried to attack me, and it was completely unprovoked. It was unprovoked, and I was, again, minding my own business, and I was just minding my own business, watching a Kingdom Hearts scene, and I got absolutely beat down by these two kids. So, it was in a special needs class. It was in middle school. It was like near the end of it was actually, I think it was like in May, around the end of the year, right after an incident that had taken place where I did unfortunately hurt a teacher. I'd prefer not to go into that really that much. It's just something I'm not really proud of.
He just had a manic episode and ended up hurting a teacher by one of his manic episodes. He doesn't remember totally exactly what happened, but he ended up hurting him in the nose, and the kids retaliated because he accidentally hurt this teacher, and the kids retaliated for it and basically beat him down.
That wasn't actually, they were threatening. They didn't beat me down. They didn't retaliate and beat me down, but they were threatening. They were threatening to beat me up. They were threatening to kill me with a BB gun and whatnot.
Yeah.
And so I ended up getting suspended. That was actually the first time I ever got suspended. That was probably actually the first and last time I ever got suspended. Because I know you were still dealing with PTSD, and you actually still yelled a bit when we were back on Zagger.
It's fun.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it was still pretty bad back when we were in Zagger. But it wasn't until after Hurricane Harvey
That was when we first got to Houston.
Yeah, this all happened whenever I first got to Houston. Whenever I headed in...
It was almost 10 years ago.
Yeah, it was like 10 years ago. But whenever I started getting into high school, things finally started changing for me, thankfully. It was after Harvey that finally I got a fresh start, and thankfully, finally, that was the moment I finally found Christ. At that point, I didn't know that was when I found Jesus. That was the moment I found Jesus. Around that time, I was suffering from crippling porn addiction that was it was destroying me. I was still relatively violent, but I wasn't as violent as I was before. And even, but in school, I did my due diligence to do the best I could. I had a teacher that was very funny, and she was tough, but she was also pretty funny as well. Unfortunately, I had a classmate that let's just say had manic episodes of his own, and he just absolutely blew up and whatnot. So obviously I had to step out of the class. So there was actually a time I had to step out of the classroom to try to chill out, to try to head for the library. I grabbed a book and I started reading up, and I started reading up on the Bible. They had Bibles around that time that you could read. So it wasn't until sophomore year that I got to my true permanent school, that of the Woodlands High School. That's where I graduated. And I was in the AIM classroom, and it was an autistic program that was catered to people like myself, and it was amazing. It was one of the best times in high school that I ever had. That is actually where I met my friends, who you might know as the other three members of the Guardians of Christ: Alex Bartolo, BJK, and of course Domination 1028, who would later join us sometime after graduation.
So, yeah, so, long story short, Hurricane Harvey destroys our house twice.
True.
We had the Memorial Day flood, which it got about 6 to 12 inches inside the house, and we lost $80,000 worth of stuff inside the house. And then we rebuild, put everything back in the house, and then 2 months later, Hurricane Harvey happens, and it goes all the way up to the roof, which is 15 feet inside the house, and just destroys everything. And I had enough. I was like, that's it. We're selling this house. I'm done with it. So I sold it to a investor, and we moved up to Conroe High School. As soon as we moved up to Conroe High School, or Conroe, Texas. As soon as we move up to Conroe, Texas, they don't have a very good mental health program for Blaze. So the Woodlands does, and he ends up going there, and they do great for Blaze. Ends up putting him through the whole program, and he does wonderful. So, long story short, there are resources out there for people that don't know around our area. But that's a little bit about our story. I wanted to just kind of pinpoint little things of what we've been through, and the things that we've done and what we haven't done. And we'll go into more detail when we get into the stories and things like that. Each podcast will go in a little bit deeper so you get to know us. But then we'll have special guests, and we'll talk about it a little bit more. You'll get to meet the rest of the family. And I hope you enjoyed today. I hope it was exactly what you guys wanted it to be. Again, the links are going to be down below for everything that you guys wanted it to be. And if you can donate for Brock and his family, please let us know, and please take us home.
Okay, well, I guess that's where we're gonna go ahead and end things off here. If you guys do like this video, please make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on post notifications. And as I've always said on the main channel and on my gaming channel and everywhere you guys can find me, thank you for watching. God bless. Stay safe. Have a great day, and we'll see you guys in the next episode of 22 Inc.